I'm Mike Farrington. Welcome back to my shop, aka the boardroom. In this video, I'm going to be building a large, heavy, but awesome dining table. And I get started by building a simple jig that's been on my to-do list for about 5 years. The tabletop is going to be 100 inches long, and this jig is essential in jointing long boards. The milling portion of this project was pretty lengthy. I think I went through about 175 board feet of 8/4 alder. And these big 8/4 boards are about the only time I wish I had a 12-inch table saw as opposed to the 10-inch table saw that I currently have. And this project was a bit of a slap in the face to my bidding process. And I bring that up because I needed about 125 to 130 board feet of lumber. But when I ordered my first batch of lumber, a lot of it was really ugly. It was beat up on the edges. And through the milling process, there was a lot of waste. So I had to order more lumber. When edge gluing boards, you absolutely do not need any joinery for strength. However, during glue up, things can get a little hectic, and the biscuits really help with alignment. Here's a quick pro tip. When you're doing a large glue up, use more glue than you think you'd need. And what this does is it sort of cheats the open time of the glue. If you have a big thick layer of glue on there, it won't set up quite as fast. It'll give you a few extra minutes to get everything clamped up properly. Of course, the one drawback is the additional mess to clean up, but in this case it's worth it. These shots are taken just outside of the town of Leadville, Colorado. Located at over 10,000 feet, it's an old mining town and a great place to take a vacation. You can own every power tool under the sun, but once in a while, the best tool for the job is a hand tool. And what I'm doing here is creating a dead flat surface for me to glue the offcuts of these boards back onto to make the tabletop look a little thicker. And this hand plane is a number 7, or as Stanley liked to call it, a 607, because it is the bedrock style of hand plane. And it's probably closing in on 100 years old, and it's still an absolutely fantastic tool, really well made. I'm not quite sure what you would call this process, but effectively what I'm doing is folding these offcuts under to make the tabletop look thicker. And I kept track of each of the offcuts, so they're being glued back onto the same board they were cut off of. When I clamped up the first side, I just used the existing glue lines to help align these small blocks. And on the second side, I actually used the outside boards to help line up the clamping operation, and this worked much better. So the first side was just a little out of square, so not a problem. I just came back with a shoulder plane and a block plane and cleaned it up. After that, I glued on the 2 outside boards. And this process was slow going. I didn't have enough clamps to clamp both sides at the same time, and the tabletop was getting heavy and hard to move around. So it was right about at this point in the build that I actually threw out my back doing yard work, which is really great. And I realized that I wasn't going to be able to put the tabletop through my wide belt sander. And I'm sure all of you are thinking, Mike, would you like some cheese with that wine? I'll admit I'm no chiropractor, but it is my understanding that after a back injury, some light exercise can help recovery. So, grabbed the hand plane and I did this the old-fashioned way. I like to confirm my mix ratio by checking the levels in the bottle before and after use. After the first round of flattening, I pulled out some epoxy and started filling the knot holes. And I added some black dye to this to match the dark stain that's going to be applied later. Next, I turn my attention to making the two legs and the stretcher that's going to connect those two legs. And same deal as before, I'm going to laminate two pieces of 8/4 lumber to give a thicker appearance. At this point, you may be wondering why I didn't just buy thicker lumber. After all, it is quite a bit of work to laminate all of these pieces together. And there is a good reason, and that is the lumber supplier that I buy from doesn't sell 16/4 alder. And in the house that this table was going to live in, all of the woodwork, including the kitchen cabinets and so forth, were made out of alder. So the customer wanted it to match, and I understand that. So the only choice was to laminate all these pieces together. If you've watched my videos for any length of time, I think you'll realize I'm a fan of tools. And I'm not a fan of old tools or new tools, I just like good tools. And this Delta 1172 tenoning jig is an example of an old tool that is also a good tool. It's built like a tank, it's got to weigh 30 pounds, and I bought it off of a local furniture maker who was retiring. And that's been my strategy for virtually every tool purchase in my shop, and that's to buy used. I like used tools because you can get a better tool for less money, but I also like the stories behind tools. And to know that this was a tool that was used by a professional furniture maker for many years, it's neat to be able to carry on that tradition. So I'd like to ask you, the viewer, a question, and that is, do you like to buy new tools or do you like to buy used tools? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Gluing up these leg assemblies, I used over a half a gallon of Titebond 3 during this project. And fortunately, I was able to run these through the wide belt sander to get them nice and flat. It's a challenge to get good dust collection on a 4-inch tall skim cut, but the one thing that helps is to actually turn the dust collector on. And here I'm just milling up the stretcher that's going to connect the two legs together. And I decided to do a mock-up of the joinery. The joinery for this table needed to be strong, but it also needed to be knocked down because I had to take the table apart to be able to deliver it. So I used 6 12 by 140 dominoes and 2 5/16 lag bolts. And the large Festool domino makes quick work of this type of joinery. And the reference pins on the front of the Festool domino are really quite genius, and I wish they would put the same setup on the small domino. And because I use the outside face of the stretcher as a reference surface, it's really easy to locate the stretcher on this leg. You just clamp a square in place and butt the bottom of the domino up against that square. And to locate the other 3 mortises, I put the stretcher in place, butt a square up to the outside face, clamp it down, and now I have a reference surface for the second 3 mortises. And look at that, fits like a glove. Next I needed to create some recesses for the lag bolts that I was going to use top and bottom on this stretcher. Earlier in the video I mentioned that Leadville, Colorado was a nice place to take a vacation. Because I had hurt my back, my wife and I decided to take a little impromptu vacation, and we ended up finding a really sweet deal on a vacation rental near Leadville, Colorado. So we packed up my van, strapped down the shop apprentice, and headed up into the mountains. And from our house to the vacation rental was about a 2-hour drive. And during the drive, I kept looking out the window at the mountains and was just blown away. The Rocky Mountains really are incredibly beautiful. And I know this may sound a little cheesy, and it is, but the song Rocky Mountain High by John Denver is the only song I can think of that gets close to describing the beauty of the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. And it just so happens to be one of the 2 state songs of Colorado. Quick test of the joinery to make sure everything fits nicely and will come apart and go back together easily. Here it is, still looking pretty rough, but that'll give you an idea of the finished form. I like to knock down most of the dried epoxy with an old beater hand plane. And a belt sander with an aggressive grit paper is a really great tool when working on these big wide surfaces. I don't own the 8-foot track for my Festool track saw, but I do have this 8-foot straight edge and a skill saw. This was how I straightened the 2 long edges. The 2 short edges, my Festool track was long enough to cut. Using these 2 methods back to back was interesting. The first thing you'll notice is the dust collection with the track saw is very good. And secondly, it's much easier to position the track because you just place it right up against your pencil lines as opposed to having to mark offsets. Both methods achieve a similar end result. The aluminum straight edge and skill saw are a fraction of the cost of the Festool track saw, but the Festool track saw is very convenient and easy to use. Due to the thickness, I had to cut from both the top and bottoms to trim the edges of the table. I decided to leave a little lip and use a flush trim router bit to finish off the cut. Quick round over just to soften that inside edge. This is a number 80 cabinet scraper. It's made by Stanley, and it's definitely not a replacement for sanding, but it allows me to start my finish sanding at a higher grit. After the final sanding, it was on to staining. The stain color that I'm using is called True Black, and it's made by Duraseal. And I'm using a flood the surface and buff off the excess method. I think this looks good with really dark stains because it allows a little of the grain to show through, which if this stain was sprayed on, it would just look jet black. So I let the finish harden for a few days, and I packed everything up and delivered it to the customer's house. I think the end result turned out pretty darn nice, and I'm really happy to have had the opportunity to build this table. It was a really good learning experience for me, and I'm happy to have had you follow along. Till next time, thanks for watching.